The Winter War by Priscilla Shirer with Gina Detweiler, Chapter 25, Common Ground. Xavier thought at first that the floor under his feet had disappeared. He was falling, the world around him going by so fast he could see only swirls of color and then nothing but darkness. He clung to the stick with both hands, as if it alone could stop his rapid descent. Gradually, the falling sensation slowed until it felt as though he were just floating gently, like taking a ride on a Ferris wheel. By the time he touched the ground, he was barely moving at all. He could see the ground around his feet, couldn't see anything else. It was completely dark. I've got to find the water, he thought, but he couldn't see a thing. He took a tentative step in one direction, sliding his foot along to make sure there were no pitfalls. Then he slid the other foot. He realized then that his bad leg wasn't hurting at all. It was holding his weight. Of course, he thought. In a horror toss, he wasn't injured. But that didn't mean he was out of danger. This was the in-between, and he didn't have his armor. The darkness was so complete that he began to feel disoriented. He had no idea which way to go. Panic rose up in his chest. He fought to push it back down. Then he noticed that the stick had started to glow very faintly. He held it up, hoping it would illuminate the space around him. But all he saw was more darkness. He wondered if there were some other way to make the stick work. "Show me the way," he said to the stick. He felt a little foolish talking to a stick. The stick did not respond to his request. Xavier sighed. "A lot of help you are." He tried to use the stick like a flashlight, pointing it in various ways to see if it would illuminate any obstacles or pitfalls around him. Still, he couldn't see anything. "This is so weird," he said aloud. "It's never been like this before." A horror toss was always showing him something new, something more challenging than the last time. Suddenly, a speck of light appeared before his eyes, growing brighter, turning into a shape. A bird. A large, regal bird. Pure white. Like snow. It was sitting on something, but Xavier couldn't tell what. And then it suddenly spread its wings and flew at Xavier's face. Xavier swung the stick at the bird, covering his face with his other hand. His heart raced, but the swinging stick didn't hit anything. It felt different, however, softer and slippery, and it was moving. Xavier uncovered his eyes and gasped, dropping the stick, which writhed around on the ground like a snake. It was a snake. Xavier struggled to make sense of this. A bird had flown at him. He'd swung the stick, and it had turned into a snake. And now the bird was gone, and the glowing snake was slithering away from him. He couldn't lose that stick. He charged after it as it veered left and right, always just out of reach. Then, without warning, the snake disappeared. First the head, then all the way to the tail. It was gone. It could not just disappear, Xavier thought. It must have gone somewhere. He slid one foot forward in the direction of where he had last seen the snake. He felt something wet soaking into his sneaker. Then the crest appeared before him, lying flat and rippling as if it were resting on the surface of a moving object. The water. This must have been where the snake went. Without further hesitation, Xavier stepped forward, putting both feet into the water. He kept going until it was completely over his head. The next thing he knew, he was in the cave, wearing his armor. His clothes, instead of the usual gray, were now snow white. The stick was lying on the ground. It was no longer a snake, but just an ordinary stick again. He reached down to pick it up. He looked around and saw the sparks floating around him, the bluish rock formations of the cave pulsing with inner light. The last time he had been here, the cave had been chock full of warriors. Now, he was alone. Xavier! He whirled to see Levi coming toward him, all in white as he was. He felt a stab of nervousness. "Hey," Xavier said, trying his best to make his voice sound casual. "Hey," Levi gave him a curt nod. "Are the others here too?" "I don't think so." Levi looked around. "It's just us." "Oh." They stood awkwardly in silence. Xavier wanted to say something, to apologize for what he had done at the battle, even to say how sorry he was that Mr. J.R. was so sick. But the words stuck in his throat. He stole a glance at Levi, who avoided his gaze, apparently absorbed in watching the sparks flicker around their heads. Warriors. They both turned to see Ruach standing before them, his hands hidden inside his purple sleeves. Xavier was thankful he was there, breaking that awful silence. "Rue," he said, "what's going on? Where is everyone?" "You are enough," Ruach replied, "but you must work together." Xavier glanced at Levi, who frowned and looked at the ground. "Can you do that?" Ruach asked. "Sure," said Xavier. "Yeah," said Levi. "This mission will be difficult," Ruach went on. "Do you have the glass, Levi?" "Yeah." Levi dug into his pocket and produced the glimmer glass. Xavier peered at it, wondering what it was. "And you have the staff, I see," said Ruach, turning to Xavier. "Staff?" Xavier said. "I thought it was a crutch." "What is the difference? It has helped you move forward." "Yeah, I guess. But you could have warned me about the snake thing." "The what?" asked Levi. Ruach interrupted. "Then you are ready?" "For what?" asked Xavier. "To go up the mountain." Both the boys looked at Ruach as if they hadn't heard him right. "Excuse me," said Levi. "Up the mountain? By ourselves?" said Xavier. "We can't attack that fortress by ourselves." "I did not say you should attack," said Ruach. "Just go to the top and see what you can see." "How will we get up there?" asked Levi. "Will Tannen take us?" "You'll know," said Ruach. "How will we know?" asked Xavier. "As you always do. Fear not, warriors, I am always with you." Before either of them could ask another question, Ruach took his hands from his sleeves. They glowed a brilliant white. He raised them to the boys, covering them in his light. So they thought they were staring into the sun.